Kidnappings are exploding across South Africa, and at the heart of it all are dangerous Mozambican gangs backed by corrupt police officials and powerful connections. Now in this episode, we dive deep into the rise of cross-border kidnapping syndicates, and one name keeps surfacing: Ismael Nangi. He's one of the big bosses, allegedly, a man accused of orchestrating countless high-profile kidnappings and raking in millions in ransom money. Despite multiple arrests, Nangi keeps slipping through the cracks of justice. And why? Because insiders claim he's protected by corrupt police officials, both in Mozambique and in South Africa. Tensions reached new heights when Nangi accused General Mkhwanazi and his team for stealing Rolexes and other valuables during a raid at his house. Now IPID is reportedly eyeing Mkhwanazi for an investigation, but the general isn't staying quiet. He's been blowing the whistle, claiming that powerful kidnapping cartels been operating in South Africa, protected by police and senior officials. Then in June of 2025, another suspected kingpin from Mozambique was laid down in a dramatic shootout in Fourways, Johannesburg. Now this episode breaks down the rise of these syndicates and the terrifying spread of organized kidnapping operations across Southern Africa.
If they decide that they're going to launch an investigation, and they're welcome to do that for any other person. Of late, I heard that there's also my name is mentioned on the kidnapping of that person from Watu who was kidnapped and those suspected were arrested. They say no, I was part of that whole investigation that I'm told it ran all the way. I know the team went following up this. And it was DPCI team, not even under the provincial commissioner. But they went to Gauteng, went to Mpumalanga province, and eventually it looks like these other policemen who was alleged to be suspect was caught in Mozambique and brought back into South Africa.
Kidnappings for ransom began spreading across Mozambique in the early 2000s, and their targets, wealthy Muslim businessmen, mostly of Indian descent, and their families. Now these brutal abductions often happen in broad daylight, and the victims would be held for weeks, sometimes even months, and if their families delayed payment, the torture would begin. Some victims were never seen again, and ransom demands could reach into millions. Now by 2013, these ruthless kidnapping rings had expanded into South Africa. They exploited weak border security and corrupt officials to operate freely between the two countries. Now many victims in South Africa were foreign nationals, Pakistanis and also Portuguese, but personal feuds and business rivalry also sparked abductions. Now dirty cops on both sides of the border helped the gangs with weapons, intel, and sometimes safe houses. Investigators found communication trails leading back to Mozambique, and ransom money was often routed to Mozambican bank accounts or sent through offshore systems, sometimes bitcoins or the Hawala system between Mozambique and Dubai, making it harder to trace. Now the Hawala banking system, in simple terms, you give money to a local Hawala banker as payment, then he lets his contact in Dubai know he's got the money, and his contact then releases the money for collection on the other side. Now this is done in cash, outside of banking channels. A recent case shocked Gauteng. A Pakistani businessman, known for supplying goods to hundreds of small shops across the province, was kidnapped in Pretoria. Now the kidnappers demanded 27 million rands from his family. As the investigation unfolded, police traced the suspects to a gated complex in Midrand. There, they arrested two men and seized two luxury vehicles, a Mercedes and a Colt Pajero. But the manhunt didn't end there. The chase led the police to Fourways, where a shootout broke out. Officers laid down a suspected leader of the gang, Mauro Mukambe Jr., a Mozambican national and one of the most wanted kidnappers in Mozambique. A warrant of his arrest had been issued in Maputo in August of 2024. As for now, the kidnapped Pakistani businessman is still missing. On the morning of 10 September 2024, chaos erupted outside a mosque in Kwadukuza as businessman Zakaria Desai stepped into the parking lot after prayer. A VW Polo pulled up. In a flash, the kidnappers grabbed him, shoved him inside a car, and fired an AK into the air as warning shots to scare off bystanders who are trying to help. Now, moments later, the kidnappers made contact with Desai's family, and their demands was 35 million rand for his safe return. Now, Desai is a well-known businessman in KZN who owns several cash and carry stores. The police immediately launched an investigation. Then 2 months later, on the 10th of November, the case took a shocking turn. A Mozambican businessman named Ismael Nangi, along with his brother-in-law and a South African police officer, were arrested. They were charged with kidnapping, extortion, and a conspiracy to commit a hit. In his affidavit, Nangi claimed he was tortured by police to force a confession. He attached a photo of his bruised eye and alleged he was tubed, a suffocation method often used to break suspects. When he wouldn't crack, police reportedly turned to his wife. They called her and told her they knew Zakaria Desai was being held captive by her brother on Nangi's orders. They gave her an ultimatum: tell your brother to release Desai in 1 hour or your husband is a goner. But Nangi and his wife denied everything. They insisted they had no knowledge of Desai's kidnapping. Who is Ismael Nangi? Now this guy, he's no small time player, he's a big fish. Nangi built a thriving logistics business called Trans Nangi, operating trucks between Mozambique and South Africa. Then around 2016, he became a permanent resident of the country. He bought property and married a South African woman. Now, as a Muslim man, he also has a wife and 5 kids in Mozambique. But in total, he's got 8 kids. Ismael Nangi is accused of running a powerful, well-funded cross-border kidnapping syndicate, a shadowy operation that spans Mozambique and South Africa. Many of their so-called victims were once residents of Mozambique but moved to South Africa, hoping to escape the wave of kidnappings plaguing their homeland. But the criminals followed. The very syndicate they ran from have now set up shop in South Africa. And if you pay close attention, there's a disturbing pattern. Most of the rich kidnapping victims are mostly Muslim. On the 22nd of Jan 2025, Nangi walked out of jail. The state's prosecution team dropped all charges against him, despite police insisting they had enough evidence for Nangi to be prosecuted. Now the public and the judge were stunned. The alleged kingpin was free, yet Zakaria Desai, the businessman snatched outside a mosque, was still missing. His kidnappers were still demanding millions from his family. Then a twist happened. On the 10th of Feb 2025, Zakaria Desai was suddenly released by his captors. His family confirmed his safe return but refused to speak to the media. They asked for privacy and vanished from public view.
Beacon kidnapping kingpin has raised questions once again about border corruption. Ismael Nangi is among 3 accused, including a police officer from the Libombo border post linked to the kidnapping of KwaZulu-Natal businessman Zakaria Desai. Desai is still missing, but is reportedly still alive. ENCA senior reporter Dason Tatia has more on this story.
This quiet suburban street was the last place Zakaria Desai was seen. The well-known Kwadukuza businessman was taken on September 10th after attending evening prayers at this mosque. Over 3 months, the Hawks in KwaZulu-Natal followed leads across the country, culminating in the arrests of 3 men. Ismael Nangi, a Mozambican suspected kidnapping mastermind. His alleged accomplice, Stefan Brits, and South African border post police officer, Samkeliso Mlotshwa. Nangi was previously wanted for crimes in his home country.
He was arrested last year and released under mysterious circumstances. Nangi's alleged involvement with law enforcement and security officials is also very worrying. We know that a number of police officers are also behind bars for kidnappings, and even in the Desai case in Stanger, one policeman was arrested and extradited from Mozambique. Police should get to the bottom of Nangi's involvement with law enforcement officials and with other bigger syndicates, and there's also an allegation that some were paid by Nangi. We know that police officers have been linked to several kidnappings before.
The reason police have been zoning in on Ismael Nangi is no mystery. He's been linked to multiple high-profile kidnappings in Mozambique, where his victims were held for enormous ransoms. We're talking hundreds of millions of rands in total. One of the most heartbreaking cases was the kidnapping of Kidnapping, a case I've covered in a previous video. Gita was a Mozambican-born businesswoman living in Mbombela, Nelspruit. Then on October 15, 2019, while driving to a shopping center, she vanished. Her car was found abandoned with all her belongings still inside. Then soon after, her family began receiving terrifying calls and even videos. In the footage, Gita was seen in a terrible state, begging for her life, and her kidnappers demanded money. The family gave in, reportedly paying around 130 million rands for her safe return. Now, weeks later, Gita was found dead next to the highway. Investigations later tied her kidnapping to a Mozambican crime syndicate, allegedly ran from inside prison by Ninisa Da, a notorious crime boss, and one of his top lieutenants was Ismael Nangi. Now, the web of crime stretches deep and Nangi's name keeps surfacing, but with powerful allies, clever tactics, and money trails hidden in digital shadows, justice remains out of reach.